Well, it's Groundhog Day. Again. And that must mean that I am Professor Robert E. G. Black, and this is the Groundhog Day Project.
It's like we're stuck. You know, like a needle on a scratch record.
It's one of those infinite time loop situations you might have heard about.
It's a thing where the same day keeps happening?
I wake up every day right here, right in Punxsutawney, and it's always February 2nd.
Time. I promise to explain everything later, but I need you to trust me.
Slow down! What are you, in a damn time loop or something?
Because I've been talking about Benesh, I wanted to get into one of the best things she turned me on to, which was Izod. So, this is Groundhog Day Project blog, day 1037, dated 3rd June 2017, in the world of men. I will warn you before I get into it, this is a little all over the place. It's very of its time, and also, unfortunately now, because this week's time loop of the week, I guess, is politics. And I say that quietly, because, oh my god. We don't learn. We loop through again and do the same thing, sometimes worse.
Most of life is just junk, right? It's filler. And then there's these moments.
It's a perfect day. You couldn't have planned a day like this.
Well, you can. It just takes an awful lot of work.
When all the randomness turns into something perfect. It's like life's dropping all the bullshit just for a second to show us how amazing it could be all the time if it wanted to.
I don't know. I think maybe we're supposed to become like better people. Though I honestly don't even know how that could be possible.
Whoa, now. Sounds like someone's got a case of the time loop blues.
Ever think about it? We must miss so many of them. All those tiny perfect things are just poof, gone. Lost forever. But not today.
You can make right what once went wrong.
That is a disturbingly inspirational idea, Mark.
I know, but what is this? Some kind of time loop like a gypsy curse? Is the universe giving us a cosmic test, or am I just going fucking crazy?
Time.
The last revision is what counts, apparently.
What if we found them all? All the perfect things in this one town, in this one day. We could collect them.
In a recent episode, I was discussing whether or not Phil is trying to be a better version of himself. So I guess for today's time loop of the week, are we trying to be a better version of ourselves? Or are we just trying to be whatever version of ourselves makes the other side cringe more? The entry. Let's see. Fox News anchor is concerned this Wonder Woman isn't wearing her star-spangled underwear. Why Wonder Woman is less American than ever. Wonder Woman, feminist icon or bodacious fantasy figure. Let me echo Benesh 2011 before I get into this. According to Izod, after the film, active imagination takes over and develops the recollected cinematic imagery by fusing it more completely with personal fantasy material. In the process, both are liable to change. Thus, for viewers, an imprint remains as during the film the audience members introject or take in its psychic content, including symbols, images, and narrative, as well as projecting individual personal concerns. After the film, if it is particularly resonant, the process continues as the film plays on in the viewer's mind. A personal edition of the film is thus created and is assimilated into the psyche of the viewer. Drifting back, Izod 2000 argues that fiction stirs the spectator's psyche through emotion. He explains, when they view fiction and drama, most viewers expect to be recompensed for their cash outlast. That's gotta be a typo. I grabbed part of the quote, stuck it in Google, and the only result that came up was my blog entry. Apparently Izod's entry is not just somewhere on the internet. I'm not sure what word this should be. Recompense for their cash outlast by being entertained. Output? Maybe? No, that doesn't make any sense. I remembered while editing that, of course, I have the Izod piece saved in Dropbox. It is an essay entitled Active Imagination and the Analysis of Film, from the Journal of Analytical Psychology 2000. John Izod. And so the quote, "But when they view fiction and drama, most viewers expect to be recompensed for their cash outlay by being entertained." Cash outlay. Anyway, back to me trying to figure that out. Entertainment encompasses many different types of delight, from imaginary wish fulfillment to the pleasures of terror experienced in a virtual rather than a real milieu. Milieu? Sorry, I got a little too French. Or tried to. Didn't mean to. From the sensuous gratifications of saturated color and engulfing sound to the power trip of flying with a gravity-defying camera. That is, it's not just about the performers dancing for us, as so many annoying conservatives suggest whenever a celebrity says something of a liberal bent, but rather it is about the emotional impact that the dance had on us as we watch, as we get pulled in, as we live within the story for as long as the story invites us to live within it. When Wonder Woman slows down, as if Zack Snyder were not just the guy with the story credit and producer credit, but the director, to show Diana or the other Amazons doing their acrobatic attacks, we slide into awe. And for the female portion of the audience, that awe has something new to it, because here is a hero unlike so many in so many other films, so many other stories. It doesn't matter, per my actual complaints about the film, that many of the plot beats are basically the same as any other superhero story. Or it does matter because what stands out, especially when we're dealing in subjective response, in emotional response, is the difference. Like I tell my public speaking students, if your speech is structured just like everybody else, if your preview and your transitions and your review are worded basically the same as everybody else's, what stands out is the stuff in between. What stands out is all of the detail that makes it your speech, your time to speak, your message. And the same goes for a film like Wonder Woman. Or last year's female-centered remake of Ghostbusters, for that matter. When men get offended by the remake switching the sexes because, and I heard this argument from a friend of mine just last week, why does it have to be all women rather than a mix? My response, not always vocalized, is why the fuck shouldn't it be? I mean, men have had male-centric films going since cinema began. We've had male-centric stories since stories began. If women or minorities want to tell a story that doesn't include us, we should back the fuck off, and if we can get over our fragile white male egos, we should maybe step forward again once the film is available to watch it, and maybe learn something. And now there's Wonder Woman. A lot of the same beats that a male-centric story might hit, but what matters are the moments between those beats. Diana's excitement at seeing a baby. Diana's seeming enjoyment and smirk every time she goes into battle. Steve's deuterogonist role as increasingly less important than Diana even as he, spoilers, even as he sacrifices himself during the final battle. He gives his life and she's still the center of the story because, well, he can't quite live in her world, can he? She's capable of imagining a world in which war doesn't happen and he's stuck in a war mode. She asks him about life when war isn't happening while they are dancing, and I forget the whole conversation, but in the end she asks him what it's like. And he tells her that he has no idea. I mentioned yesterday that Charlie is the shell-shocked one of the 5-man band. What 5-man band? Charlie, what am I talking about? But Steve and Samir and Chief, what? Are all a bit war-weary. Are these people in Wonder Woman? No, they are. And I talked about Wonder Woman for multiple entries. I don't remember doing this. And they step right into line behind Diana once they see her in action. But it's hard to imagine them beyond the war. I think Steve knows this. If Diana remains, though actual history doesn't bear this out, the world changes. Without the purpose that Ludendorff suggests men find in war, who is Steve? Of course, Diana is all about combat, even from the opening scenes with her as a child. But her horror at injured soldiers, her need to help everybody, her single-mindedness to rid the world of Ares, this sets her apart from these world-weary soldiers. And this brings us to a classic. Did I even talk about Groundhog Day in here? I'm weighing the options. Do I continue reading this? There's a few paragraphs left. When it isn't getting back to the Benesh stuff I thought it was, it's not really getting to the Izod thing, which is a sort of philosophical notion that I'd like to expand on, and is definitely not touching on Groundhog Day. I think I had it in my bookmarks and I saw it and I was like, It would be fun to do a political one that I think gets a little ranty and angry here. But now I don't know. Maybe I want to save my political anger for the present. Yeah. Of course, Diana is all about combat, even from the opening scenes with her as a child. But her horror at injured soldiers, her need to help everybody, her single-mindedness to rid the world of Ares, this sets her apart from these world-weary soldiers. And this brings us to a classic sort of power of love ending, except it doesn't come out of nowhere. From the beginning, it was clear that Diana's mother and her aunt both loved her. Steve is almost immediately smitten with her, though it takes a while for him to claim that he loves her. Everyone is enamored with her, fascinated by her, and Gal Gadot's charisma makes this work wonderfully. Never mind my current thoughts on her. And we can't actually imagine the world changing if it knew about her. But then the credits roll and we go back into the real world, and of course Diana didn't change the world in 1918, even within the DCU, because men would never let that happen. And the folks at Fox News have the gall to worry about how American Diana is. Fuck that. Fuck your patriarchal, pro-America expectations. Maureen Callahan at the New York Post points out that in her debut, Wonder Woman was depicted in red, white, and blue storming into battle. She'd left her home, Paradise Island, to fight the Nazis in America, the last citadel of democracy and of equal rights for women. I think she's even quoting the original issue of Sensation Comics from 1942 there. And that just makes me laugh because, one, the idea that anyone would call America in 1942 a citadel for equal rights for women is ridiculous. Two, and barely less ridiculous, is that democracy claim. But most of all, three, I imagine a new Wonder Woman film set in the present in which she comes to America to fight Nazis all over again. Except played by Gal Gadot, I guess she'd side with them? And the white supremacist men who think all the power should be theirs forever and ever. Amen. Should be climbing over one another to denounce the film as sacrilege, and women might be inspired to denounce those men as useless assholes. This film has almost nothing to do with America, Callahan says. It's the same limited worldview that got Trump pulling us out of the Paris Accord this week. If it is not explicitly, specifically, directly about America, then why should we care, right? Except, just as Diana realizes that Ares has not just corrupted the bad guys but also the good guys, the problems of the entire world affect us all. The problems of some singular location on the other side of the globe, like the attacks in London just today or Congolese President Joseph Kabila's apparent refusal to hold elections this year, or the genocide in Palestine, it matters here. It should matter here. When women are held down, when racial minorities are held down, when non-binary, non-heteronormative folks are held down, it should matter to any of us. It feels like it should be trite by now, obvious, but Martin Luther King Jr.'s line about injustice anywhere is something far too many people don't fucking understand. Me, I say let's remake every great film with the genders reversed. Let's tell white stories, if that's even a thing, with casts of color. Let's stop warring over how American a demigod from a fantastical Greek island is, or how horrible it is that, as Louis Beale puts it over at CNN, Wonder Woman has long been touted as some sort of feminist icon, but also has been a major sex object, as if those two things are inherently, mutually exclusive. I almost want to end with Bulworth. All we need is a voluntary, free-spirited, open-ended program of procreative racial deconstruction. Everybody just gotta keep fucking everybody till they're all the same color. But that seems far too flippant, and far too on the nose at the same damn time. If only Diana's power of love stuff could work on us every day like it works on those German soldiers at the end of Wonder Woman. Imagine the relief, even if it's only short-lived, when the violence ends and we actually do all get along. Then imagine us fucking it up all over again because we're too damn stupid to know any better. Kinda like our election. And if you're listening to this in the future, it's probably still true about the latest election. Because we're not good at this.
Knew you were gonna say that.
This has been a production of Lemming Drops Studio. You can find links to more at lemmingdrops.com or join the Facebook group Lemming Drops Studio Tour. Also, you can support all my shows at patreon.com/lemmingdrops.
What is wrong in the end which never comes? Or which comes again and again, laughing, like waves.
Since the Big Bang set everything in motion, everything that happens in this universe has to be the way it is. Particles unfolding the way they're destined to.
How do you sleep at night? You've never seen Groundhog Day?
Yeah, you know Groundhog Day is not a documentary.
Remember when Groundhog Day was just a movie?